Yeah, so my DJI mics that I use have been sitting in my backpack because I take them when I travel in case I need to do like a live stream like I did last week from my hotel room. Oh, lordy lord. So it wasn't charged. And the whole battery that it charges in, it was not charged. So, all right, glad it's working. I am back from a couple, like a week and a half on the road. And man, it was exhausting. I tell you what, the time zone whiplash is what I'm calling it was real because I was in Florida. I came home for like a day and a half, and then I was back out to New Jersey. So from Pacific East Coast Pacific to East Coast Pacific, whew. I do have a couple trips coming up. I'm going to the Anaheim area this week for a few days, and then I'm going to Florida, South Florida, Miami area for about 4 or 5 days. So pretty big job out there. But yeah, so I finally recovered a little bit. I was definitely exhausted this weekend and didn't do a whole lot. Normally I work a lot on the weekends, but I didn't. Just kind of relaxed, which was wonderful. But I'm back at it. I'm back at it today. I got to pound out a couple of videos. I got the next video in the series of the hierarchy of softness. I'm shooting to come out on Wednesday, and it's going to cover the adhesive powder. And that's an interesting one because there's a lot of opinions out there. And I've got my opinions too. Obviously, my goal is to communicate what is most likely to work in a wide array of scenarios. Basically, I try to do some like standardization, basically kind of giving you some input on what's going to work through or in the majority of situations. But if your situation is a little different, it is what it is. I ran into that even this week, or this last week at the couple shops I was at, is that they do things a little differently and it works for them. It's not wrong. It works for them, but definitely not a standardization. So good morning, Jonathan. Good morning, Lana. Kevin. Yes? Is it Kevin? I'm trying to remember names based off of these things. I am going to enjoy my time there, though. The weather's been glorious in Arizona. It's been like under 100 or around 100 and no humidity for the last few days. It's been chef's kiss. And that's me coming from Florida and New Jersey, which was so muggy. It was so muggy and lots of rain. It was crazy. Anyway, all right, this week we are going to talk about graininess. And graininess is like the bane of a DTF printer's existence. And I'm going to show you kind of what some graininess can look like. But graininess, especially... Ooh. It's going to be nice in Anaheim. Graininess is especially noticeable for folks that have done screen printing. Digital printing, graininess is kind of a normal artifact of digital printing. It just kind of comes with the territory. If you look at any professional printed stuff really close, you're going to see a certain amount of graininess in a lot of it. I know that because I go and look at I'll look at like the big stickers that are on windows, those kind of printouts. I'll look at big banners and stuff like that. And when you look closely, you can see graininess in like almost all digital printing. So there's a certain element where graininess is just a nature of printing digitally. That being said, there are some things that can be done to mitigate it a bit. There are some things that can cause more graininess to show up. So there's a lot of nuance to it. And obviously we don't want to settle with super grainy prints when we're printing, especially when we're trying to replace or supplement like screen printing. We don't want a ton of graininess. So we're going to cover a couple things, both like what causes the graininess or what can be a source of the graininess and how to fix it. And this isn't going to work in every situation. I'll just be straight honest with you. Like there's a gentleman in Denmark I've been working with extensively trying to help with his graininess. And there's some things we've done that have helped, but it's not completely gotten rid of the graininess. And there's some things that you can test on your own. There's other things that are hard to test because it gets expensive, whether it's different RIP softwares or different inks or things like that. But so let's start out with graininess. What does graininess kind of look like? And I will show you a print of mine that's kind of grainy. Let's see if I can get it to. Nope, it's not going to look good on camera. Great. All right. I thought it might look good on camera, but like often, cameras make things look so much better. So graininess is just like kind of speckly. It's not a consistent color. And graininess, depending on how it looks, I can almost kind of like tell where that graininess might be coming from. These images here, and I printed this the other day on my Prestige R2 Pro, and it's because the alignment was off. Sometimes graininess comes from misalignment in your print head. And I don't just mean like the general alignments, like the head space and things of that nature. I'm talking the alignment of the color channels with each other. That's a piece that a lot of folks, especially running Chinese manufactured equipment, is that those things kind of get overlooked. Now, one of the reasons those got overlooked, and honestly, my early days at DTF Superstore, the color adjust setting in Print EXP or Hosensoft, we often ignored because we couldn't tell, looking at it with our naked eye, what was going on with it or that there was a problem with it. When we started working with Mamaki printers, we had to have one of these little microscopes to be able to do the alignments. And when I started working with anything Chinese manufactured again, I started using this little microscope and I could see what was going on in those color channels. So aligning those color channels will help with some graininess. Again, not all of it. So that's a key one. That's like probably the easiest thing and the least expensive thing you can do to fix potentially some of your graininess. And that's going to be getting your print heads dialed in their alignment. And it's using one of these microscopes. They're like $30 on Amazon. They're not expensive. I use it all the time. It's on the road with me. And they are the best way that I have found to get the print heads on really any printer aligned properly. You can see like the little tiniest dots on the printhead alignment, and you can make the adjustments. And in some of the more advanced versions, the updated versions of Print EXP and Hosensoft and DTF Station Pilot, you can actually change. The adjustments are not whole numbers. So if you're looking at the printout and 0 and -1 are both off the same distance either side from the other dots that are produced, you can actually do it by 0.5. So some of the more advanced Hosensoft and Print EXP have better alignment checks. So alignment is the first thing you should check. And this is not a technique, but this is an area where a lot of people think their system is dialed in, and then I'll get there and I'll take a look at it and it's not. And it's because people just assume it's okay. And you won't necessarily notice the color channels being off from each other, except for in certain colors where there's graininess. So that's the first and easiest way to fix some graininess is through the alignment. The next cause is a little more expensive, but that's potentially your ink. And I will tell you from personal experience that I have printed with like a whole bunch of different kinds of inks. And when I was at Superstore, I was printing with the Super CMYK ink, and we got the DuPont ink, and I switched to it, and immediately, without doing anything, without reprofiling or anything, it was less grainy. And I suspect that there's something up with the way just the ink behaves, whether it's like the heaters on the printer or the film or something like that. But I have seen inks be more grainy than not. The gentleman I was working with in Denmark, he switched inks and went to Inkbank 5600 from the manufacturer ink that he was using, and it didn't get rid of the graininess completely, but it was heavily reduced. It was a lot better than it was just by using a better quality ink. DuPont is expensive. However, they also warranty the print head. So obviously, I have my opinions. I think the Color Prime ink that DTF Station uses is really good. I think DuPont is really good. I think Inkbank 5600 is good. I've gotten good results with it. I was actually just a shop this week that's using Inkbank 5600, and I'll tell you more about how we got rid of the graininess there in a second. But ink makes a big difference, and it's important that you're using quality ink. Not only from the standpoint of like consistent results, because that's a big deal, because if they change a little bit of something about the pigment or the coloration of like their cyan, it can throw all of your colors off. So you've got to make sure you're getting consistent quality ink. Also, it's like filtered well. I've seen some inks that are just not filtered properly, and so they struggle with decent nozzle checks. They struggle with ink flow issues. There's a lot of other things that come into play. But what I will tell you is that simply switching to a better quality ink can get rid of a lot of the graininess. Again, not all of it. It depends on where that graininess is coming from. So first thing, alignment. Second thing, potentially swap out your ink for something a little better quality. That will make a big difference in your graininess. Another thing that is just the nature of digital printing is colors that are out of gamut oftentimes will struggle, or on the edge of gamut will struggle with some graininess. There are literally colors that I can try to pick and throw in there that come out grainy. I think it's just the way the digital nature of it trying to pull those colors in, it creates some graininess. That's totally a potential graininess issue that is just probably not going to be solved other than going to an extended color gamut printer, which I will tell you, I've gotten less graininess on extended color printers. So so that can be a possibility, that you're just pushing colors that are outside of gamut, and it's just kind of almost like a digital like error, but it still prints the color, but it's just kind of a digital like hiccup or brain fart, for lack of a better term. It's like, I can't quite do that, so here's something, and you get a little bit of graininess results. So those are a couple things. The next thing that you can check, and it doesn't cost a lot to check, but you have to be very careful with it, is the height of the carriage off the print area. And that can change the way that the ink lays and works. Also your waveforms. So waveforms and like physical behavior of the carriage can cause some graininess. So let's talk about carriage height first. Check with the manufacturer, and they should have a specification for how high the carriage should be, or how high the print head should be off of the print media. I know Audley's 2 millimeters, and I know that just because the guy in Denmark that I'm working with, he found out from the manufacturer. But find out from your manufacturer how high the print head should be off of the print media. And the other thing is the waveform. And if you don't know how to change the waveforms, usually there's like 5 or 6 waveform options in your Hostenssoft, your Print EXP. Give me 1 second to open up. Yeah, let's hop over. Let me close my TikTok chat. So let's hop over and look at how you would change or test your waveforms. So waveform here, we go to advanced menus. This is going to be in any Hostenssoft, Print EXP, DTF Station Pilot. And your password is always 6 ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ones. And it should open up. And in here, you should have waveform here in the bottom. And there's oftentimes, depending on the version you have, 6 or 7 waveform files in here. You can load waveforms in, but just be very, very careful that you know what you're doing and you have an actual good waveform. Most ink manufacturers don't have waveforms. They really should. If you can get a waveform, great. Doesn't guarantee it's going to work properly, but here's how I test it. So I will choose a new waveform. I know this waveform works, so I'm not going to change it, but I choose a new waveform. I hit save. It usually takes a longer. I didn't change anything, so it didn't take very long to save, but I'm saving it. I'm going to close this down, and I'm going to print a nozzle check. And then I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to change the waveform. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to close it. I'm going to hit nozzle check. I'm going to do that for every single one of my waveforms. Then I'm going to take, where did I set it down? Right there. Then I'm going to take my microscope and I'm going to look at those results. And what I'm looking for is a consistent size of dot and that they're going in a straight line. If it's a bad waveform, you will get big dots and small dots. You will have them like up and down from each other. They just won't be consistent. And so what you're looking for in those waveforms, specifically in the CMYK, the white, it's not as critical. You obviously want to make sure it looks okay in the white, but you want to look at your CMYK and look at all three colors, because you will also see that some colors, like a cyan, might not look as good on that waveform as the black, yellow, and magenta. I have seen that before. So you want to print up all the nozzle checks with the wave, like in each waveform. Make sure it's in order so you know which one is which. You use your microscope. You find the one that has the most consistent dots in size and the most straight line of those dots. And then that's the waveform you want to use. Now, if the white looks all over the map on that waveform, you might have to sacrifice a little bit of clarity on the CMYK to get the white waveform to work right. There's no way to install two different waveforms. So that's how you test your waveforms. And the better that looks on the nozzle check, the better your overall results will print out. So graininess things to cover. Carriage head height, or carriage, like print head height to the print media, your waveform, your alignments. Those are all things you can do without spending a dime and making sure those things are dialed in perfectly. Then a better quality ink will make a massive difference. It does, for sure. The last one is a RIP software. Now, there is no guarantee that the RIP software will remove the graininess. Digital Factory is notorious for having kind of grainy results, and it's pretty much known well in the industry. And there, like I said, all those other things can mitigate that a lot to where it's not as bad. But I will tell you that all we did in the shop I was at on this week is we switched from Digital Factory to Neostampa. We changed nothing with the waveforms. We changed nothing with the print heads. They were already aligned. They did a good, they align them every week. They check every Monday that their printers are aligned. And all we did was change and build a new profile in Neostampa, and it was dramatically less grainy. There was this image of like a greenish yellow truck, and in the Digital Factory printout, it was super grainy on that door. And in the Neostampa printout, it was perfectly smooth. So I will tell you that a different RIP software can, and in a lot of cases, will give you less grainy results. That being said, there is a massive cost usually in switching RIP softwares, not only from the cost of the software standpoint, but the cost of training, learning a new software. The other thing is with Neostampa, they don't have baked-in profiles. It's actually one of the things I do kind of like about it is they're not just sharing every profile that anybody's ever made for it. They kind of let you make your own bespoke profiles, and they don't share those profiles that you spent time making with the rest of the world. Now, if I want to share those profiles that I've made with the rest of the world, that's my prerogative. But yeah, Neostampa has made a big difference without changing anything else from a graininess standpoint. Now, I have seen people run Neostampa and still get some graininess issues, and it could be poor quality ink. It could be the alignment stuff with the print head. It could be waveform. It could be some other things. But what I'm saying is that graininess is like a multifaceted issue or struggle that most digital printers just struggle with. And so this is more so to get you guys thinking on the level of like addressing things you can address to make things better. I mean, if you do everything but swap out the rip, you're going to probably get better results. If you do everything but swap out ink and rip, you're going to get better results, but maybe not perfect. And I will tell you, when it comes to the best results I've gotten for lack of graininess, it was an extended color gamut printer using fluorescence, using RGB, fluorescent yellow, fluorescent magenta, with Neostampa. And it was DuPont on all of the colors except for the fluorescence where I was using ink bank. And I think I've done a system or two with ink bank, all ink bank with ink bank fluorescence. And it looked really, really good. So that's like, if you want like the pie in the sky, the best option for lack of graininess, it's extended color printer. And again, because some graininess comes from the printer trying to produce some colors that it just can't quite do. So I hope that, do you guys have any questions about graininess? Like, what have you seen? What have you guys done or been able to address to get rid of graininess for your printers? Anybody? I know everybody deals with graininess. I know that's a pretty normal thing. But yeah, let me know if you guys have had solutions for your graininess issues. While we're waiting on questions popping in, I do want to, let me see if I got the right screen. All right. So a couple things. One, over on my store, I've had Digital Factory on here for a while. Ooh, Lana's got a good comment. I'll bring it up in a second. So we've got a Digital Factory on there. Again, I still think Digital Factory is a great RIP software. It does struggle with some graininess sometimes. But the really great thing is you can buy it and find a profile that kind of works good for your printer and go. It's not going to be perfect, but it's a really good, fairly inexpensive solution. You will see on here, ladies and gents, your boy does have Mamaki ink to sell. So if you guys are running Mamaki printers, I do have Mamaki ink. The distributor I'm working with doesn't have a massive stock. So if you are going to start ordering from me, please give me a heads up, because I can make sure that we've got plenty in stock. I just need to kind of know if you're going to start ordering from me. $78 per cartridge, which is I think most places are charging like $80. So I'm able to discount a little bit because of who I'm working through. So we do have that as an option. I also do have cleaning solution for the Mamaki. I also have T-Seal. Guys, I've got T-Seal. I finally have T-Seal. It's available for sale. You can buy just a sheet of it, or you can buy a 10-pack. Yeah, I finally have T-Seal. I can finally sell what is my favorite finishing sheet. And then we got our brush pack, our texture pack, and then a bunch of the free downloads. And I'm going to start doing more of the like downloads for when I'm making tutorial videos. I'm going to start offering some more of those things. So definitely reach out. I don't have Neostampa on here right now because you do have to build a profile for it. And so the buyer needs to have either me coming out or the ability to make their own profile. So I'm going to have those prices coming up on Neostampa soon. I hesitate to put them on there and have people buy it and then get frustrated because it doesn't just work like right out of the box. And then, as always, y'all, DTF Station is the sponsor of these live streams. They, again, support education. They want you guys to have better confidence in what you're doing and what you're working with. Let me get rid of my name because my name is up here. It's blocking things. There we go. You guys know I have the Prestige R2 Pro. which is a fantastic machine. But if you guys have wanted or been interested in getting into UV-DTF, they have a couple of really nice UV-DTF printers. You got the Aries 113, which I think is a 13-inch wide 13-inch wide printer. They also have a 24-inch wide UV-DTF. And for those of you who don't know, this lovely little mug. Now, we're going to ignore Jeremy's inability to put on a sticker level. But Estevan and I made this at, oh, look, it's the same shirt. Estevan from All American Print Supply, and I made this mug at Atlantic City, at Impressions in Atlantic City. So if you've been thinking about doing UV DTF, the Aries machine is quite good. And literally, we took this photo with an iPhone. We cut it out using like the iPhone, like when you hold down on a person in a picture, it'll cut them out. We literally just put that into, at the time, DigiRip. Now it'll be Neo Stampa, and printed it out. It was like super simple and obviously silly, but yeah, it's a great resource. Over on All American Print Supply's channel, they've got a good video on the Aries 124. So, all right, Lana, I fight with Graininess on grays, mostly cool grays. I challenge your idea of cool gray. I'm going to call it cool, not gray, because it's not actually gray. Gray is neutral. But yeah, so Lana, what printer are you running? Are you running a Mamaki? I can't remember. Let me know what printer you're running, because there can be issues of graininess that are kind of baked into a printer. I've seen that with the Mamaki TXF 150, and its cyan is just notoriously grainy. And I've done a lot of different projects. Oh, you got a Titan Jet. Okay. I've done a lot of different, with that TXF 150. I've worked with it on trying different things. Now, I didn't get a lot of chance to work with it with Neo Stampa, like digging into that. But what I found is that a lot of the graininess was just coming from the cyan. Even when I printed with Rasterlink, which is their RIP software, I was getting a lot of graininess from the cyan. Now, I am doing some testing with a new American-made Mamaki aftermarket ink. We're waiting on a couple things to go do that test, but probably in the next month or so, I'll be testing those cartridges. And that's one of the first things I'm going to test. I wanted to check and see if the new ink reduces that graininess that you get in the TXF 150s. So, so keep an eye on the channel, both on my store as well as that, to see what that is when that comes out. Using Titan Jet ink for black, magenta, and white. Kiwo ink for cyan and yellow. Interesting. And obviously, you're not having issues with mixing. Sometimes you can run different inks and it's totally fine. Other times you will have problems. But yeah, I'm not familiar with the Kiwo brand ink. I'll have to look into that a little bit. But another way you can check for your graininess, like if it's coming from a specific channel, I don't know if I've showed you guys. Actually, they're not available. I've got some little color blocks that I use when I'm picking my variable dot size and setup. That shows different percentages of cyan, magenta, yellow, and it kind of lets you see if there's graininess. That's actually how I discovered the graininess was coming almost 100% from the cyan on those TXF 150s. I'll probably make a video on that test file that I've made and how I use it. But that's one way to try to find out where that graininess is coming from. Jasmine, I know it's not really on topic, but have you ever seen banding happen when a color is almost out of gamut, the kind of banding where it looks like sunspots? Jasmine, we're okay. We're totally fine with off-topic questions here. We like all sorts of random questions because I want you guys to ask your questions. If I don't have a good answer for it, that adds it to my list of things I want to research and figure out, because I really want to try to solve a lot of the problems that are in the industry. Now, so you're talking not traditional banding where it's like a distinct line that goes sideways through your prints, but more of like a wavy kind of like blotchy thing where it's you got a big solid block of color and it's kind of just wavy. It's not a solid thing. So that is potentially caused by like 3 or 4 different things. I have seen it where it's the coating on the film and the film coating is inconsistent. Sweet. I have seen it where the coating of the film was inconsistent. And so as it laid down that ink, it was also inconsistent. I've also seen it to where if you turn on the heaters, like if your printer has heaters, you turn them on, it kind of preps the film to accept the ink, and that can mitigate that somewhat. Also, the humidity and temp of your room can cause that. So I think a lot of people neglect how important room temperature and humidity is. So I'm in a 1-car garage type shop. It is not super well insulated. It's okay insulated. It's pretty good. But I have a mini split, a Della mini split up on my wall here. And then I have an evap cooler style humidifier. Now, I don't run that humidifier all the time. I run it when I know I'm going to be printing or when I'm prepping to print. But I will not print anything that I'm either going to sell or doing testing of without having my humidity in the right range. So it can also happen because your humidity or temp is wrong. And I will just be honest, that is so overlooked by so many people. So make sure your humidity is in a good range, 40 to 60. Honestly, if you can get closer to 50, it's going to be better. And your temp should be below 75 degrees Fahrenheit, like 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, which for most places is not terribly hard to do. In Arizona, like normally this time of year, we're in the 1-teens. It's a little difficult, but we can do it. And then another factor is potentially a poor waveform. The fact that the waveform doesn't give you those straight line, perfect dots means that it's going to print kind of inconsistently. It's going to lay it down a little inconsistently. I've also seen sometimes it's from some light ink starvation from the print head. So you want to check your damper. I think I have a damper here. Is this my dampers? You want to check your dampers. Now, these are a little different dampers than a lot of i3200 systems use. But let me open this up. It's like the hardest Ziploc bag to open. Good Lord. Okay. So these are what the dampers look like for my Prestige. Let's see if it'll focus on that. And all dampers will have this circular area here just before it goes into the print head. So this ink comes down, fills up in here. This is a little mesh filter to make sure it filters out any other debris that might be coming through. And then it goes down there. Now, the purpose of this area here, this reservoir here, is to give a good, like, solid run of ink down into the print head without overloading it. And in this damper, let's see, if you see right there, see how it kind of springs in and out? That spring is creating some negative pressure. And so it's keeping the ink from dripping out of the print head. If you didn't have this attached to it, the print head would just have ink dripping out of it all the time. That's why in the Mamaki machines that have the white ink damper issues, it's usually this mechanism failing or getting worn out and not pulling or holding that negative pressure. I have seen where this gets low. So if your ink is only coming up to like here, you're almost not creating enough pressure from the ink to offset this negative pressure that this little membrane or this little diaphragm is holding at bay. So you want to have your circular part of your damper at least half, if not 3/4 full. And that will cause Lana, in case you didn't see it in the chat, there you go. Lana used to be a part-time tech with me at Superstore, so she knows what she's talking about, and she's also been through my boot camps too. So anyway, you want to make sure this is at least 3/4 of the way full, and if it's not, I want you to pull your damper out. Don't do a load ink, because a load ink will oftentimes not fill up this circular area. So what I want you to do, and I really need to oil this chair. It is creaking to high heaven. It drives me nuts. I want you to take a syringe. I want you to pull your damper out. And when you pull your damper out, hold it from these ends. Do not hold it from this side. Otherwise, you're going to squirt ink out all over your printer. And I want you to pull that damper out. And I want you to turn it so that it's facing this way. And that's going to leave the air gap here at the top. I want you to take your syringe and I want you to put it in the end and pull it up like this. And you're going to see the ink finally fill up into there. And you can stop just as it's coming to here. If it a little bit gets in your syringe, not a big deal. But let go of that. And then your damper here will be full. Again, you can do a bunch of load inks and it won't actually fill up this reservoir on the damper. So that can be another cause of why you might be getting that like wavy banding, is because this isn't full enough to give the print head a viable, like a good volume of ink behind it, but it also may be not giving it enough pressure that it's kind of like the negative pressure from this membrane or this diaphragm here is counteracting that ink. You really want it nicely balanced. So the way to get that to work a little better is to fill this up a little bit more. So let me think if there's any other things I would check. Push comes to shove. If you've checked all those things, this is full. You've got your heaters turned on your printer, like the preheat to prep the film and the print area heat. Those should be turned up to 95 Celsius or 95 Fahrenheit. Do not do 95 Celsius. 95 Fahrenheit or 35 Celsius. That's kind of the range you want to be at for those printer heaters. Check this. And then if push comes to shove, you can change your eclosion. And it will slow down your printer some or substantially depending on the settings you use. But sometimes that eclosion can help, because basically what that eclosion is it's kind of the weaving of each pass and how they lay down against each other. So so changing your eclosion settings can mitigate that. It's not a solution. I think you need to find where that issue is. Is it the coating on the film? Is it the heaters? Is it just not enough ink getting to the print head? What is causing that? The eclosion will help you limp through, but I do not believe it to be a solution. Actually, let's pop over to our computer and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. So in settings here, print DTF Station Pilot calls it print overlap settings because that's exactly what it is. But yours will say eclosion or occlusion or something like that. And you have your mode and your type. Let me do the type real quick. I'm going to show you something. I have tested most of these. Now, some of these, it's different depending on the version of Print EXP you have. But most have fog type, strong A, and maybe fog plus. I usually see at least those three. I will tell you right now, strong A will slow down your printer by half. So if you're normally doing like 60 square feet an hour, it's going to do 30 square feet an hour. It is slow. So I would only go to strong A in an absolute like death, I got to get this thing out situation, because it's going to go so slow. The mode will slow down the further down this direction you go. Most printers start out on like normal or depth. When I'm profiling, I do most printers on normal or depth, depending on maybe past history situation. I talk to them about how their machine's running. But you can run super eclosion. You can also run custom and run up to 100%. Custom at 100% and fog type will be faster than any of the modes on strong A. Strong A literally halves the printer speed. It's dramatically slower. Now, again, if it's a massive problem, you might want to address it. But if I understand correctly, I believe the depth is like 60 or 70%. And then I want to say it's like 50, 70, 90, I think is what the breakdown is. I can't remember exactly. It's been a long time since I did see that information at one point, but I cannot remember. But yeah, you can change your print overlap or your occlusion settings and get some of that waviness out of it. Again, not a solution, a band-aid for it. It'll get you through, but you really should do some investigating to find out where that comes from. I think more often than not, that waviness is from environmental issues or inconsistent coating on that film. Because the way that the film is produced, they have these coating machines, and if there's any inconsistency in the barrels or the stuff that puts the coating on, if there's any inconsistency in that, it will create inconsistency in your print, and it won't look like it. You won't be able to, you can't tell it from looking at the actual coating. You only notice it when it gets, when it prints. Let's see. We have industrial humidifier, perfect, 50 to 70. Room gets 65 to 85. Yeah. If you can control that a little bit more, anything over 80 is getting into, you're going to have some issues territory. I've seen some places print a little bit higher temp, but anything over 80, you're going to struggle. So my guess is, I mean, and not always. It's just the plain and simple, but troublesome colors will be worse when you're at the outer edges of those environmental ranges. Yep. So your purples and oranges. So that would tell me your issues are in your magenta color. So something's going on with your magenta. So I would check if there's any filters in line with your magenta, because purples and magentas, purple and oranges both use magenta. That's why I say that it's probably that. Yeah, high temp and low humidity is always going to cause problems in those troublesome areas. So the first thing I would do is get your environment right. Like, because you could do like all of the other things I've suggested, and if your environment isn't right, it's never going to print right. And this is the idea of stabilizing your system. The more stable your room, the more stable your print platform, the more stable your output is going to be. The better quality you're going to be able to print. And you're not going to be doing reprints because you have to do all that. So I think you need to try to push to figure out some better environmental management. I think as the more that I'm like talking to more people, talking to more shops, the shops that are successful are managing their environment like really, really anally. Like they're very concerned. They've got dehumidifiers as well as humidifiers. So I would encourage you to find a way to get your room temp controlled a little bit better. I think you will find that a lot of the problems that you're having will kind of fade away because you're just not going to be you're not going to be competing or battling something that is an issue that you can address. Mark, what's happening? Mark, when we talked, I didn't realize you're a mountain biker. I am an avid mountain biker, and I've really wanted someday to go to New Zealand and ride in Rotorua. That sounds like a blast. Mark is in Australia, and I actually had a call with him the other night. It was 10:30 on the East Coast, and it was like middle of the day for him. Yeah, Jasmine, like I said, that's probably your, I would say the lowest hanging fruit. Like, what's the easiest thing to address? Well, maybe not the easiest. Maybe your environment's not the easiest thing to address, but it's the most critical because all these other things can happen that make you think something's wrong with your printer, and it's just the environment that you're in. So I think I'm I've got all these different like ideas that I'm working on, and the idea of stabilizing the system, finding a way to make your printer function at its like best performance. I'm working on some different ideas for how to dial that in and how to like have some good solutions for that. I've seen people that literally build a tent, like a grow tent, around their printer to control the humidity and temperature better. So yeah, I think that's a big thing. A lot of folks just kind of are lax on and just are like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Even the big operators. That's one of the things I picked up at G7 was even the big operators, the Flexos, the giant printers that take them entire rooms down to the just standard any other kind of printer, any kind of inkjet printer environment is critical. There's even some color consulting companies that send out a survey, and if you're not in those ranges, like they'll walk in, they'll be like, oh, your room's too hot, well, I'm out, because they literally can't do a great job of profiling. And I've run into that a couple times in a couple different shops where the humidity was a little bit dry or the temp was a little bit on the high side, and we're seeing some banding, and it's an environmental thing. It makes it really hard to profile when you can't stabilize how the printer's behaving based on the environment. So, yeah, great question, Jasmine. And that is a common one. Like I said, there's a laundry list of things, but first get that environment stabilized. Make sure that damper is 1/2 to 3/4 full. Specifically look at that magenta. You could also look and see if you have any ink filters. You should be replacing your ink filters if you have ink filters, 6-ish months, somewhere in that ballpark. Same thing with dampers. Dampers are not meant to last an eternity. They can clog. There's that little metal filter that was in there, but they can also just wear out over time. But yeah, so those are the top things I would check. And then also make sure your heater's on. And if you can get your hands on a different film to test, try a different film and see if it's maybe the coating on your film. So I'm personally not a huge fan of Cobra Flex printers as a whole. I have seen the one that has the AC humidifier and dehumidifier built into the printer. I'm just not personally a fan. I've seen some of their equipment. I don't love the history would say that they have some issues. So, okay, Lana, hold on first. Boyd, hey, thanks for being on. I swear, he's over in the UK, and he never is able to get on when we're live. So you're live now. Boyd, if you got a question, throw it in the chat. I'll answer it. What are my current favorite films? So it depends on what you're looking to achieve. Obviously, like I'm using the Quick Glide from DTF Station. They actually sent me, it's in the house. I haven't brought it out here yet. They actually sent me a new version of their Quick Glide film. And I have loved the way it peels. It peels like it hot peels, and it's like glorious. But it's a little bit on the pricey side. I believe DuPont has a film which I've played with some of it, and it was behaving really well. I think the issue hot peel and reliable stock. I love the laughy emoji because you know that hot peel's not really a thing. I'm just kidding. Hot peel is the bane of the industry's existence right now, because so often there are hot peels and people advertise them as hot peels and they don't behave like hot peels. And I could get down another tangent on this because I believe that there's more user error on hot peels not peeling, and not being critical of anyone, but there are certain parameters. Like when I was at Superstore, we would get a roll of film that was returned as saying it doesn't peel hot. I would run it and it would peel perfectly. And I think that some folks are either running their dryer too hot and fast or not hot enough. I think people are like working in some outer edges of the operating window for the film, and um and when you're working in that outer edges, it might work, but that film doesn't like being in those either too hot or not hot enough range. And so I think finding more that middle range, I think that's why I've tended to not have issues with hot peel that came back as having not worked as a hot peel. Um, I also think that maybe people aren't using enough pressure when they press. And there's a lot of factors. Not being critical of anyone, you do what you make, like you make it work. You do what works for your situation. But I think a lot of the hot peel issues have been from the inconsistency in the way that a lot of dryers dry in people's settings, because they just figured out what worked at one point for them, and they just go with that all the time when it's maybe not the best window for operating. I was testing an ink once that just fell apart. Like as soon as I started stretching and pulling on it, it would just break down. And that manufacturer's like, oh, you need to cure it at 140 to 145 Celsius. And I said, no, no, I'm not. I'm not going to do that, because that is on the edge of a lot of films curing. Like if you're pushing that and your printer, your dryer is a little bit inconsistent on temp, it could scorch the film real quick. So I'm like, guys, you have to, if you're going to release something, you've got to release it in a way that functions in the normal window of most of the other products. So that's what I try to do. I try to figure out where that operating window is, kind of in the middle of it. And I'll maybe do a video on that at some point too. But I think that's where a lot of the inconsistency comes for a lot of the hot peels. That being said, there are also issues of manufacturing in some of them. So if you want to try some of the Quick Glide from DTF Station, Lana, like I said, it's a little pricier, but if it peels hot every single time and you get good results out of it, then it's kind of a win, because then you're not having issues of returns and reprints and all that kind of stuff, because those get costly. Reprints, those get costly real quick. So if you can find some ways to mitigate that, that's a success, even if it is a little more expensive. So I try to click the Quick Glide. I've heard some good things from the Gator Supply out of Florida. I've heard some good things about their film. The biggest problem is that everybody just takes somebody else's manufactured film and names it their own thing. So I don't really know what everybody has. Like when I was at Superstore, I really liked the V2. I know a lot of people had some issues with it, but I never had issues with it. And maybe again, that maybe I was working in the right ranges for it. But I really like that. But I don't, and I know other people are buying that exact same film and selling it themselves, but I just don't know who that is. And that's, again, one of the dilemmas in our industry right now, is that because everybody private labels, we don't really know where anything's coming from. So I'd prefer to, or when I recommend stuff, I'm generally going to recommend stuff from a manufacturer, because then I know who it's coming from. I know where it's coming from. That's why I like the Quick Glide. I like I think it comes out of Korea. I like the DuPont. I've played with it a little bit. Other than that, just you got to find some place that has good, consistent stock. It's hard, guys. Like I'll be totally honest. It's hard. It's hard for you guys as end users to find some good, consistent options that don't change and that you know what you're getting. Like, and again, it's not necessarily a supplier issue. Sometimes a manufacturer issue. We oftentimes would get a new like with the old Mongoose printers that we sold at Superstore. We came out with the Mongoose 2 because the manufacturer changed it on us. They changed a whole bunch of stuff. They're like, it's better. And there were some things that were definitely better, but a lot of stuff that was not better. And so we had to go back to the manufacturer. They didn't warn us. They just sent us a new shipment and said, here's the new printers, and didn't let us know that they were changing it. And I've heard that story from multiple other dealers out there, that they change it without giving you any warning. And so that oftentimes is happening with the film too. They're changing their coating, they're changing. And so I think the solution is going to be some American manufactured films. Like I said, DuPont's got one. I know there's another company, another American company that's getting ready to release a film. I think knowing where the source is and getting it from direct from a manufacturer is the best way to know you're getting something similar. But again, the stuff out of China, they'll change it in a heartbeat and don't even think about it. So it's a tough go for you guys out there. So you have my deepest sympathy. It is a little hard. So, all right, Boyd's got a question. What do you think of conversions like Epson ET8550 for those who can't afford prestige like yours? So, here is my honest answer. I do not like the converted machines. I think you will spend a lot of time fighting with it. There are plenty of people that are successful with it. There have been people that have been successful with it. I just think that the likelihood that you will not be successful with it is a little higher than I'm comfortable with. So what I suggest, if you don't have the money to get a dedicated printer like the Prestige R2 Pro, smaller but still good production, or the Prestige R1, I prefer this because it's got the i1600. I'm not a huge fan of the XP600 printheads. But what I would do, Boyd, is I would order prints from someone. I would find somebody local in your area that has a commercial machine that you can work with, and I would buy prints from them to build up your business to the point where you can afford to buy a production level printer. The other thing is if you're newish to the garment decorating business and you're trying to like kind of cut your teeth, kind of get your legs under you, it's better to learn one thing versus 5 things at once. So if you are just starting out and you want to sell shirts, it's better for you to just learn how to sell shirts and press them before you have to learn how to print. Because if you're spending a lot of your time printing, and actually I gave this advice to a young guy who's like probably 19 or 20. He came to one of my boot camps and he was using a converted machine. And every time he went to print, he would spend 12-ish hours both prepping the machine to print and printing, and ran into issues. And I told him, I'm like, dude, you have this, like, his personality was like really great on networking with people and connecting with people. So I said, hey, stop printing. He's like, what? I'm like, yeah, stop printing. Find someone in Las Vegas, because he was in Vegas. Find someone there that does commercial printing. Partner with them. Let them do your printing, and you go out and build your business. And what it ended up doing, it freed him up so much that he got a deal at a skate shop. He's a skateboarder, and he was working on opening up a skate shop in a mall, and there was going to be like the skate park area, and the mall had reached out to him to help develop that. And so all of a sudden it opened up his bandwidth to build his business. So instead of printing, he was building his business. And did it cost him more dollars to buy the transfers and print them himself? Yes. But did it cost him any more financially from a business standpoint? No. He made so much more money because he shifted that workload off to somebody who does it professionally, and that's all they do. And you're correct. You can also go on vacation with no worries. Yeah. So what I would do, Boyd, is, and I don't know, maybe it's a side hustle for you. Maybe you have a full-time job and it's a side hustle. Even more important to just buy transfers, get comfortable with pressing, get comfortable with creating the graphics, the garments, connecting with clients and stuff like that, build that business. And then as that thing's kind of running, you know how to do it. Then you can add a printer into the mix, because then you can get faster turnarounds. You have more control over your prints, your white underbase, all that kind of stuff. So I think those are all reasons why I'm not a huge fan of converted machines. I work with people with converted machines all the time. I do digital. I've done a couple digital factory. Yep. So make your side hustle easier. Just buy the transfers for now. And find somebody good. Find somebody local and good that you can go to their shop, pick it up. Maybe they'll work with you on maybe reducing white underbase a little bit to get a softer hand feel. See what you can find. But I would just work with somebody locally. Yeah. Well, I love that discussion at the end. Yeah, I will work with converted folks, but it's not an ideal situation. And if you want the fastest route to turn a side hustle into the main hustle, buy transfers first and just press and sell shirts and then add that piece. Because learning how to print is a pretty big learning curve, pretty steep learning curve. And I am working on training for that that you can buy like on demand, but it's going to take a while because it's a solid like 2 days of content that I have to film, and I have to mix that into all of my travel, which is a lot. It's going to be a busy month of August, but yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for today. If you do have questions, you can still pop it in. Usually a few more questions pop up as I'm usually signing off, but things to look out for on the channel. Wednesday, hierarchy, next video in the hierarchy of softness, we are going to be talking about the adhesive powder. I've got a couple other like tutorial videos that I'm working on. I'm going to try to get those out, but with how much travel I'm doing, I'm struggling a little bit to get those done. And then, let me make sure I'm not missing anything on TikTok. Oopsies. Nope, everybody's good on TikTok. I am not. So I'm still working out what trade shows I am going to try to go to. That particular one, I believe, is August 21st and 22nd or something like that. And that is the exact days that I'm dropping off my daughter at college. So that is not an option. And then I'm going to Cozumel, which, if you haven't heard on my videos before, I am going to get a wetsuit. I'm going to DTF on the wetsuit, and I am going to snorkel and maybe even scuba dive in my DTF'd wetsuit. So Will It DTF is coming back, and I am going to test a wetsuit because I've always wanted to do it, and I'm going to do it. Yep, 23rd and 23rd. Yeah, that's right. When I believe 23rd is the day that I'm flying to Cozumel. So yeah, and then August, I've got a lot of requests for me to come out. I know there's a couple folks, California DTF. I know I need to get you your quote over to you. But if you guys have any questions, you need anything, feel free to reach out either by email or through the contact form on my website. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you. I make no guarantees I will be on next week, because I will be in a shop and I got a lot of printers of profiles. So if I'm not on next week, I'll maybe post a video or something in its place. But we'll see. Maybe I'll get a lot done before Monday and I have the time. So we shall see. But if not, I will see you the following Monday. Y'all have a great rest of your week. Enjoy your weathers. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye.